Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 46 of the Tristan on Sports Show Toss. It is in fact your main man, T-Squared, Tristan Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Toss. We have to go into state to state and talk Badgers football. They're undefeated. We have to talk the Milwaukee Bucks. They too are undefeated through preseason. The real thing starts up next week. And we have to talk about LeBron James putting his foot in his mouth in the toss sweep. But to get things started off, because you know how we get down here on Toss, State of the State, we have to talk about the Green Bay Packers and the fact that they are sitting atop of the NFC North at 5-1, the toughest division in football to this point. Every team is at 500 or better. The Packers are on top of that division, 5-1, as I said before, after an escape on Monday Night Football from the Detroit Lions, a 23-22 win that was marred in controversy, a couple of calls that should not have been made that went against the Lions, gave the Packers an opportunity to go down the field, keep that drive alive, and Mason Crosby kicks the game winner. Now, let's not sit here and act as if the Lions did not benefit from some of those absolutely ridiculous calls. They were. Their only touchdown of the game came on a blown call by an official. When you look at the footage from the sideline, you clearly see that the ball carrier for Detroit did not break the plane, so they should not have been awarded a touchdown. But in fact, they were. It was their only touchdown of the game. The Packers defense got settled down after they went deep. I'm talking to Detroit Lions here. They went deep for 60-plus yards with Kenny Galladay connecting with Matthew Stafford connecting with Kenny Galladay to go 60-plus yards down the field on the first play of the game to get themselves into scoring position, which they kicked the field goal. The next drive, they scored a touchdown. The Packers defense held Detroit 2 field goals for the rest of the game, so they settled down quite nicely, got pressure on Stafford, were able to play really good pass defense on those receivers. Again, Marvin Jones is a guy who's always had big games against the Packers, and he was relatively quiet. Galladay, he had some big splash plays, but they held him relatively in check. This run game for Detroit, they probably did their best run the defense job of the season on those guys, besides that first game against Chicago. So there's a lot to like, but you flip the coin over to that offensive side of the football. They have nobody to catch the football at this point. That game, they all could not catch a football to save their lives. Everything was a drop. Everything. But now you have further injury. You were already without Devontae Adams. They think he was going to be out for maybe a couple of more weeks with turf toe. MVS is out. Robert Tonyan, the tight end, was already out. Jimmy Graham was already dealing with injury issues. I mean, you're missing everyone. Now you have to go to the likes of Allen Lazard, who I really liked in preseason. And he got his big opportunity. He caught a huge touchdown, an absolute dime from Aaron Rodgers for a big-time score. Got those guys back in the game. You're talking about Jake Kumaro, a guy who could light it up in preseason, but really to this point in the regular season hasn't really done much. He too had been dealing with injury. You're throwing to a bunch of no-name guys, and you're expecting a 2-time MVP and Super Bowl champion Aaron Rodgers to make it work. And somehow, some way, through the grace of Matt LaFleur and the game plan, they're finding a way to win. And that's what you need. You just need to find a way to win. Have to do it. Have to do it. They game plan against teams, as I said last week on Toss. They game plan to take advantage of the weaknesses of teams as opposed to stuffing what they do best into a game plan versus that team. They just find different ways to win. They remind you of the New England Patriots in that way. They find different ways to win. Every team has their weakness. Can you attack that weakness time and time again and be successful in doing so and come away with the W? And to this point, the Packers have been able to do it 5 times. You have injuries left and right on the offensive side of the ball, but your O-line is pretty much elite. I think we could go there. Rodgers has had really good protection. The times that he's been sacked is because it's been really good coverage down the field, or he's held onto the ball too long. Now, they're not perfect. They have allowed some sacks without those circumstances occurring. But more times than not, those have been the circumstances in which he's been dropped. But he hasn't been dropped all that much. So your O-line is elite. You have a great 1-2 punch at running back with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, who came back and made an impact this past Monday against the Detroit Lions. You have two good backs, not just one. You have two. Aaron Jones, yes, is your bell cow, but you cannot forget about Williams. He is also a factor back. You probably have the best quarterback in the division who hasn't even played up to his standards yet. And somehow, some way, with a rookie head coach, mind you, you are sitting atop of your division at 5-1. This could have been an absolute unmitigated disaster. Guys getting hurt, rookie head coach. He's never dealt with this type of adversity before. How is he going to make it through it? And yet they are finding different ways to win. I said it last week on Toss. You have to commend the job that Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff are doing. It has been terrific. It has been terrific. Again, it could have been an unmitigated disaster, but instead you are sitting atop of your division at 5-1. You are really in control of your own destiny. You really are. Now you have the Raiders coming into Lambeau, and they've been helter-skelter up and down, but you have to continue to take care of business, especially in this home-heavy portion of your schedule, because once this is over, you have a lot of road games, and that's where the real test comes in. Not saying that being at home and trying to win football games in the NFL is easy, but it's made easier, or a little bit easier, when you're at home. You got the home crowd behind you. They just give you an extra juice that you just wouldn't get on the road. But we know Packers fans travel well all around the world, so it's almost like home field advantage anywhere you go, but there's no place like Lambeau. So you need to take care of your business at home. The Raiders are not going to be pushovers. Again, they've been inconsistent. They can shock you, but you have to come out, assert your dominance, take care of business, and move on to the next. But I am thoroughly impressed with the job that everybody has done so far. Yes, there's room for improvement. No, this team has not played their best football yet. Not at all. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that. But that should make you excited. They haven't played their best ball yet, but yet they're sitting here at 5-1. Should be 6-0, but they're not. More poor officiating. But 5-1 in control of the NFC North with your best football ahead of you, you got to be excited about that. Like I said before, Oakland Raiders coming in this Sunday, Lambeau Field, noon. You got to handle business at home. But you escape with a 23-22 win this past Monday night. You had to be impressed with the job Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers have done thus far. Let's move to Madison, Wisconsin, and talk about the Wisconsin Badgers here on State of the State on Toss. And those Badgers, that Badgers men football team, they are undefeated. They are sitting atop of the Big Ten Western Division. 6-0, 3-0 in conference play. What can you say about these guys? I mean, you got Jonathan Taylor, who is a certified Heisman candidate who is not getting the credit that he deserves. He is a top flight candidate for the Heisman Trophy. He should be invited to New York. Absolutely, he should. And you got a lot of season left. So he's got a lot of numbers left to put up. Didn't have a great game on the ground, had a little bit over 80 yards, had multiple touchdowns, but that Michigan State defense is tough. That Michigan State defense was very tough. And you knew that was going to happen. They wanted to shut the run down and put the ball in Jack Cohn's hands. And Jack Cohn definitely did not lose the game for them. He made really good throws to keep drives going, was efficient on third down. He's really been good at making good, accurate throws all season long. has not had the big turnover. He's just been really steady all year long, which is more than what you can say for Alex Hornibrook last season and the past few seasons. You were on pins and needles, like hoping that he didn't throw that big game-ending interception or that big game-changing interception like we saw him do in the Big Ten championship game when they were undefeated and all they had to do was win that game and they would have been in the college football playoff. But they didn't, because Hornibrook did not come to play in the right moment. He had a very good game in that Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. Don't get me wrong. It was probably, I would say very good, but it was okay. I think the bowl game, he played the best game ever, but you wish you would have had that game that he had in the bowl game against Miami in the Big Ten championship game. You wish that was flip-flopped, but it wasn't. They lost their college football playoff hopes, lost their undefeated season, still had a very good season, but Jack Cohn is not Alex Hornibrook. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to breathe a big sigh of relief. And I know I was kind of bite my tongue on that when I saw that Paul Chryst was going to go with Cohn over Mertz. And I get it. Mertz, he's the freshman. He's coming in. He got to give him a year to learn, get acclimated to the college game. Just sit back, watch, even though he has gotten into games and he has played well, and it's a different zip and a different accuracy with the way he throws the football, which makes you really excited for the future. I think he's going to be a really good one. It's going to give this team another dimension. But Cohn has given this team a bit of a different dimension with his accuracy, with his ability to take care of the football. So Michigan State wanted to put the ball in Jack Cohn's hands, and they got their wish. Jonathan Taylor didn't have the 100, 200 yard game. Like I said, he was just over 80 yards, had multiple touchdowns. But they wanted to put the ball in Jack Cohn's hands. They got their wish, and they still lost. Part of the reason why they lost is because that number one ranked defense, after a rough year last year, with losing talent to the NFL and losing talent to graduation and all the injuries, that Badgers defense took a gigantic step back last season. But now they're back to where they were a couple of seasons and seasons before that. Tops in the nation. Any defensive statistic you can possibly think of, the Badgers are probably number one in the country. You're talking about a defense that's giving up 4.5 points a game. Through 6 games, you're giving up 4.5 points per game. You've had 4 shutouts in your first 6 games. Let me repeat that. The Wisconsin Badgers defense has had 4 shutouts in their first 6 games. That is remarkable. It's tough to wrap your head around that. That is sheer dominance. Now you have the naysayers who are going to come around and tell you that the Badgers haven't played anybody. The real test comes not this week when they face Illinois, even though I believe that could possibly be a trap game, the following week against Ohio State. And we know Ohio State and all their offense, and they are Ohio State. We know what they are. They're undefeated. But to say the Badgers have not played anyone, they played a very good Michigan team. That Michigan team is 5-1. The one in that 5-1 is Wisconsin. They played a very good Michigan State team. Now you look at their record, they're 4-3. But look at their 3 losses. You're talking just this past week to Wisconsin. You're talking to Ohio State, who Wisconsin will see next Saturday. And you're talking to a very good Herm Edwards Arizona State team that's 5-1. So I don't want to hear the narrative that they didn't play anybody. This is typical Wisconsin disrespect. Anytime the Badgers have a good team, it's like, yeah, they're undefeated, but it's like they always trying to find, and when I say they, I mean media, I mean people, casual fans of college football, they always try to find a way to make it contrarian and say, oh, well, they're 5 and they're undefeated, but who do they really play? I mean, they've played some competition. I'm not going to say everybody on that list is tough, but is everybody on Alabama's list tough? Is everybody on Georgia's list tough? And Georgia lost. That was a huge loss for them. I mean, their hopes might be dashed. They're going to have to put together one hell of a second half and get to that SEC championship game and do their thing there if they're going to even sniff the playoffs now. Huge loss to South Carolina. But I digress. Not all of these contending teams who are undefeated have played an absolute gauntlet of teams. But to say Wisconsin hasn't played anybody, no, they've played some people. They have just played so well that they made those guys look bad. That's what you have when you talk about the Wisconsin Badgers. They have just been that much better than everyone they've played that they make their opposition look absolutely inferior. So I don't want to hear all that yin-yang about them not playing anybody because we know they have. It's the typical Wisconsin bias. People don't want to give them the respect that they have damn well earned. But all the Badgers can do is control what they can control. And what they can't control is what they do on that field. I believe they have a trap game coming up on Saturday against Illinois. Yes, Illinois is not the best. They have a terrible record. Let's be real about it. They are horrible. But we have seen upsets with teams who have not exactly been playing the best, who do not have the best record. And some teams come in a little bit overconfident. They look at that record as opposed to looking at their opponents and the things that they can do. And they end up getting bit in the end. Wisconsin cannot afford that. And I don't think this team will do that. I don't think this team is looking past Illinois to Ohio State. I think they are looking directly at Illinois. You need to go down there. You need to go and handle business. Keep this season going. You have some big, lofty goals. And I think they could obtain them. 6-0, 3-0 in the Big Ten. I think they could keep this thing rolling. So this is a very special season brewing for the Wisconsin Badgers. Let's finish off State of the State and talk Milwaukee Bucks basketball. Speaking of undefeated, they went undefeated in preseason, 5-0, and now that's over. We are days, no longer months, no longer weeks. We are days away from the start of the NBA season. I am 1,000% excited. I have been waiting for Bucks season to get started ever since the Eastern Conference Finals ended, and we are about to get our wishes. Giannis was his usual dominant self, and he might be shooting the three-point better than he ever has. In preseason, he shot it at about 36%. If you can get 36% three-point shooting out of Giannis, game over. Good luck. You're not stopping him, and you're not stopping this team. If he can shoot that three consistently, now you have to run at him on the perimeter. And he has the length and the speed to blow right by you and dunk in your mug. And if you block or clog the lane, he's going to kick it out to Kyle Korver. He's going to kick it out to Brook Lopez. He's going to kick it out to Wesley Matthews. He's going to kick it out to Dante DiVincenzo. He's going to kick it out to Ersan Ilyasova. He's going to kick it out to Chris Middleton. He's going to kick it out to DJ Wilson. He's going to kick it out to any one of these open shooters that the Bucks have surrounded him with. And they're going to make it at a high percentage, and you are going to lose. That's what's going to happen if he's going to make that shot more consistently, and at least in preseason. And I know it's preseason. You don't want to get too overly excited about it, and I understand that, but it's hard not to when you see someone who is the reigning MVP continuing to improve his game, especially in an area that's going to make him even more dangerous than he already is. It's hard to contain that excitement. It's something worth being excited over. Let's talk about speaking of Giannis, let's talk about the GMs around the league. They did a survey with GMs around the league, and most GMs, or majority of the GMs, have picked Giannis to repeat as NBA MVP. And I'm thinking to myself, it's really going to be hard. Who else is really going to do it? I mean, you're going to have the usual suspects. You're going to have your LeBron. You're going to have Kawhi. You're going to have James Harden. But will those guys do anything on the court as impactful and in as many areas as Giannis does them? Will their teams have the same type of success that I'm predicting the Bucks to have? And we'll get to that in a second. I say it's hard pressed to find anybody that's going to do that. But that's why they play the games. But most GMs are picking him to repeat as NBA MVP. We shall see. The journey gets started in a few days. Las Vegas, they're liking a matchup of the LA Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals. Clippers and Bucks. They're picking the Clippers to make it all the way through the Western Conference with teams that have absolutely loaded up. You talk about a team in the same building in the LA Lakers who now have Anthony Davis. You're talking about Russell Westbrook teaming up with James Harden down in Houston. You can talk about a scrappy Utah club who now adds Mike Conley along with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. I mean, that's a pretty good trio right there too. It's the Western Conference is going to be tough. And you can't forget about the Warriors. Now, I know they will not have Klay Thompson. I understand that. And I know they lost Kevin Durant to free agency. You lost DeMarcus Cousins to free agency. You lost a lot of guys. They just let go of a guy to make room for another one. So it's a lot of change in Golden State. But I just can't see them missing the playoffs. I can't see them not competing. Steve Kerr is a hell of a coach. Steph Curry is a hell of a player. He's going to have to shoulder the load pretty much offensively. You have D'Angelo Russell there, so he's definitely going to be the number two. It's a different look. It's a different team, but I mean, you still have a lot of those championship pieces there with Draymond, with Steph, with Coach Kerr. I just have a hard time believing they're going to miss the playoffs, but I digress. It's going to be a really tough Western Conference to make it through, and the East near the top is going to be tough. For me, I have it with the Bucks and the Sixers. I think those are going to be the two teams in the end in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I will pick Bucks every single time. I will pick Bucks every single time. Yes, they picked up Al Horford. Yes, he seems to be a Bucks killer every single time. But I have faith in what the Bucks can do and what they've added on this team to make it through the Eastern Conference. So I think Vegas has it right in that regard. I believe they're picking the Clippers to win the title. That I might disagree with. But as far as the finals matchup, I like that matchup. I would love to see that matchup with the Clippers and Doc Rivers. And then you got the Bucks, Mike Budenholzer, the disciple from the Greg Popovich Spurs system. You got to like it. You got to like that matchup. But there's a long season to get through. There's a long playoffs to get through. You have to qualify for it first, which means you got to win ball games. So how many ball games do I see the Bucks winning? I'm going to go 58-24. I know they went 60-22 last season, but you got new pieces. They're going to have to figure out how to work with each other. And at least in preseason, they've done it pretty well, 5-0. But that's preseason. Once you get to the regular season, you're still going to have to find ways to, you're still going to have to gel, still going to have to figure each other out. I'm going to be conservative and go 58-24, but I would not be shocked if they won 61 games and went 61-21. But my official prediction, 58-24, the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. This team is much deeper than last year. They're going to learn about each other. They're going to gel with each other. They're going to get better as the season goes on. Man, this team, it's already fun to watch. And it was preseason. Come regular season, man, I think this team is still going to be blowing the barn doors off of teams. Defensively, they're going to be sound. Offensively, they're going to be tough to figure out. I'm just excited all the way around for Bucks basketball. The season gets started in mere days. Cannot wait. Welcome back, Bucks basketball. And that's the state of the state. Packers 5-1 on top of the NFC North. If the season were to end right now, they would be the number 2 seed in the NFC, which means a first round bye, guaranteed a home playoff game. They're trending in the right direction. They have to handle business against Oakland on Sunday at Lambeau. The Badgers, 6-0 on top of the Big Ten Western Division, moving up the ranks in the country. Best defense in the country. They have to handle business against Illinois on Saturday. And Milwaukee Bucks basketball starts in mere days. They handle business all preseason long, 5-0, unblemished in preseason. We'll see how long they can stay that way in the regular season. And I've got them winning 58 games and taking the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done. Coming up on Toss, we have to run the toss sweep. And LeBron James, who's usually eloquent, thoughtful in the way that he speaks on certain issues, seems to have put his big foot in his big mouth over China. We'll get into it on Toss Sweep next. Toss Nation Media is your home for the Toss brand of sports. So if you want to hear this very program, the Toss Tristan on Sports Show, if you want more in-depth analysis, you can go to the Toss blog. And don't forget, all season long, all Green Bay Packers season long, you can catch my prediction on Green Bay Packers games on the Green Bay Packers Quick Toss. It's all there waiting for you on TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. It's your main man, T Square, Tristan Thomas. Thanks for sticking with us. And we have to run the toss sweep. Recently, the NBA went to China for their yearly exhibition games over there. And we know that the NBA is huge over in China. Yao Ming pretty much got it all jumped off. He is an absolute rock star over there. Still is an absolute rock star, a great ambassador to the game for there and also all around the world. Well, Rockets GM Daryl Morey came in with his comments backing for the democracy of China. We all know what the ordeal is there. They're not really a democracy. They're communist and this, that, and the other. Well, he came in with some very poignant comments, and they seemed very thoughtful. They seemed very informed. He was pro-democratic. He wanted everybody to be treated fairly and not be under the rule of a few. And it made things get very awkward very quickly, and it deteriorated the relationship between the NBA and China very, very quickly. Adam Silver stood his ground. He said they're not going to punish Daryl Morey for using his right to free speech. He did nothing wrong. He spoke on a subject that he seemed to be very informed of, and there's nothing to punish, even though the Chinese government was trying to force the NBA and Adam Silver to fire Daryl Morey, who is the GM and employee of the Houston Rockets, not the NBA, just the Houston Rockets on that team. So it's just been a very awkward situation. And Rachel Nichols came in when she was over there and covering the exhibition games, and they were ripping down billboards and murals right in front of their very eyes. And she talked about how there will be hundreds and maybe even thousands of people there waiting to greet players as they came out the hotel or came off planes. And now there was just a few dozen, and a lot of them were hiding their faces because they didn't want to be seen still supporting the NBA when their government was at odds with them. They could get into a lot of trouble over it. They didn't want to be seen doing that. It just became a very, very awkward situation. Well, LeBron James weighed in on it, and he essentially sided with money to come in and say, why didn't you could have waited a week to send this tweet when this is a social justice issue over in China happening, when you've been very eloquent, very outspoken, very poignant on social injustice issues here in America. How can you do that and be that smart and be that poignant with the issues here in America, but not have that same empathy, not have that same want to learn about what's going on over in China? it's the same fight. They're facing all the social injustices too. But you turned a blind eye to it and said, why couldn't you have just sent that tweet a week ago? And somebody dug up his Martin Luther King tweet. And it pretty much made him look like the biggest hypocrite ever. And I could just tell you from my perspective how I felt about his comments. I felt they were very hypocritical. I felt really kind of disgusted by it. Because you can be a champion for social justice here, but you can't be a champion for social justice anywhere else. And it's not to say that, oh, you have to do this because you're LeBron James. No, I just felt that his comments, even though he said Daryl Morey didn't seem to be informed about the comments he made, in actuality, it felt as if LeBron James was not informed about the comments he made. It looked like he was walking lockstep with the Chinese government and wanted to save face for the NBA for money. Now, I'm not saying that that's why he did it. I'm not going to sit here on my show and say this is why he did it. I don't know why he did what he did. I can just tell you from my perspective of how I feel and how many other people feel why he did it. Probably affects his pocketbook. And I get it. Like I said, the account from Rachel Nichols on the entire situation and how awkward it was for players, them being denied access to the arena to practice, not even knowing if that game would even go on, not having the game even on television over there. It was a very awkward situation to be thrust into. I get it. But those comments, I honestly felt like they did not come from being in an awkward situation. It felt to me that it came from a pocketbook perspective. Your relationship or the NBA's relationship with China deteriorating also deteriorates your pockets because your relationship with China and your products in China, because you are and have been the face of the NBA for so long. You are one of its greatest players of all time. You are in lockstep with the NBA. So now it's going to affect you too. It just honestly was very disappointing to see. It was very disappointing to hear. He won't talk about it anymore. And it's probably the best idea. I don't think and I'm not trying to go against his more than an athlete creed, but this may have been one he needed to sit out on. There's not a whole lot that he does that's very disappointing. He's someone that took the worst of situations and made it into the greatest of situations. He's a great player. He's a great teammate, great husband, great father, great champion for social justice, great champion for education and bettering everywhere that he goes. But I was disappointed with these comments, and I was disappointed with him on this one. It just goes to show that they are more than athletes. They're human. And humans make mistakes too. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been Tristan on Sports Show Toss, episode 46. Rolling right through all these episodes now. I told y'all I will be back. I know some of y'all was thinking I wasn't going to come back, but I told you I will be back, and we're going to be back each and every single week. You know the website, tossnationmedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. On the Facebook page, you get a lot of things that I don't cover on this show on that page. That's facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. You know my Twitter at the20double. That's at the20 in the word double. Also can be found on Instagram at the same handle at the20double. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristan Thomas, telling you that it's okay to not be okay, as long as you work to get better each and every single day. Always forward always. next week. So long from Toss.